All right, folks, we are back here this Wednesday afternoon inside our Cybergroup trading room and streaming across social media here this August 11th, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome on back, of course, for our afternoon meeting. Great to see all of our students and trial members alike. I see Skip, Larry, Gene, Norman, Martha, Ron, Alex, William, Kathleen, Debbie, and Bill. Great to see all of us, though, otherwise. And like I said, if you're joining us today on social media, welcome on back. So, without further ado, to begin today, this meeting, market's been pretty wonky, a little up and down, a little tight range, and otherwise relatively boring. So, we've actually had a pretty good morning. We'll talk about that. And right now, actually, it's on a separate screen. So I'm going to just jump over to this right now. I was going to start off on the ORPH, but right now, my last call out in the trading room in Cybergroup is actually pushing up really well. The DYAI, I had said just before, 227, DYAI trying to get back up to 5. That was when it was right around 485, 487, and now just blasted right over resistance and made a really strong push so far. So certainly we're still not out of the doghouse yet. It still could be a false breakout where it can come right back down. Got to set your stop and be careful. But nice trade so far. And if this can keep going, based off the news that we had on this stock this morning, this can make for a really nice trade here heading into the close. Actually, really quick, because I forgot the exact headline off the top of my head. I knew that this had to do in relation to COVID vaccine. Yeah, so the official headline, DYAI shares trading higher after the company and Sorrento, and that's a stock I guess we'll look to next. Those two companies announced the signing of a binding term sheet to enter in a license agreement to develop and commercialize vaccines, therapeutics, and diagnostics for coronaviruses, plural, including DYAI's lead COVID-19 vaccine candidate. All right, cool. So the reason I emphasize the other company, Sorrento, that's because that's a stock that we're really familiar with here in the Cybergroup room. SRNE back, in the beginning of the pandemic, they were one of the companies that ended up coming out with a possible vaccine, a candidate, and we ended up trading them. Did really well on the long, and a couple of times they were shortable, but nonetheless, just really quick, tidbit here. This stock clearly hasn't done anything today. So it just goes to show that just because a company is in the headline, just because there seems to be some sort of good news out in relation to a company, doesn't mean it's going to move up. Obviously, DYAI is blasting on up right now. It did from pre-market, but hey, this was in the headlines, Sorrento, SRNE, so you would figure that this would move too. Not as much. So for right now, this trade, DYAI, easily, we're going to put on our watch list to begin. And actually, something I'm just catching right now. Let me ask all of us here in Cybergroup, is there anything interesting or peculiar about this DYAI stock right now? It's got good spread, good liquidity, cheap. It's on the gainers list off good news. Everything that we would want to see in a stock. There's also something else about this stock that I actually really like. Is there anything that you folks can see about it? Martha, she says no icebergs. Looking on level 3, there is one at 515, and that's actually something that's good as well. We would like to see that. That's a very good answer. That's not what I was looking for, though. This stock is actually shortable, at least on TradeStation. Doesn't say hard to borrow next to it, the HB next to the ticker. So, if this thing ends up crapping out, if this pulls back right below 5 and holds under it, this might be a great short. So actually, this is a great trade both ways, if it presents either opportunity. For right now, on the way up, looking pretty good still. So we'll see where the stock goes, the DYAI. All right, so really outside of the DYAI, we did pretty well on a couple of other trades. FUBO is the one that I was really hitting today, FUBO stock. And this one was very similar to the AMC trade, actually. I got a little time here today. I don't mind just showing this here really quick. So I was in a coaching session earlier with one of our students, Felix, and he's doing pretty good nowadays. And we were looking at a couple of stocks, but I was telling him I was in on FUBO, and I was already short on the stock at the time. I was short from 31.90, I think the price was. But nonetheless, this stock looked very similar to AMC's move, not today. Go back to yesterday. And I'm more so referring to the morning heading into the early afternoon, because AMC yesterday was coming off of good earnings. Their estimates beat their EPS beat the estimate. Their sales beat the estimate. There's some extra news about Bitcoin being accepted for payment for tickets and concessions. I mean, that's great news, at least in terms of seeing, Bitcoin. But nonetheless, why did AMC tank? That threw me for a bit of a loop after the market opened. Well, I made sure not to make the same mistake twice. What I mean by that is, with seeing FUBO drop off after the market opened up, I anticipated support to be right off of 32 and then ultimately 31, much like AMC had support at 35 and at 34 respectively. So it's to say that this stock ended up making the exact same move as AMC did yesterday, where it ended up dropping down to the bottom support level, 31. It moved back up to 32, and that's where I ended up going short. I went short from 31.90 right from that point, ended up dropping it down towards, like, I forgot my exit. It was right around 30.85, I think, right around there. Decent trade altogether. Left a little on the table, went back in just a bit earlier, right off of 31.29. That was on a smaller position heading into like lunchtime. Not really the best idea to be trading, the same amount of shares you were from the morning or better time of the day. But for right now, this stock's still very tradable, on the way back down, perhaps to 31. If it breaks below 31, perhaps we'll see continuation on the way down. If it holds over 31, maybe we'll get the squeeze back up. But if you look at AMC and what it did yesterday, it ended up breaking down pretty nicely heading into like 1 o'clock, 1:30 Eastern time, and made for an incredible drop-off going into the afternoon meeting. This is a little bit shakier, so that's making me think that there's a chance that this pumps back up actually heading into the close more than dumps off. But that 31 level will be critical, at least in terms of determining that. So, if it ends up breaking below 31 with a lot of selling, then I'd say that's a very good opportunity to reconsider the short. Otherwise, again, perhaps we'll see the pump back up from 31 heading into the afternoon. So we'll put FUBO on our list here either way. All right. What we'll do is go from top to bottom. Another stock that we ended up doing really well on, and this was actually more from the early afternoon, the LITB trade. Ended up making like a low volume pump. It dumped. And normally after that, like, you kind of write the stock off. You pretty much think that the stock is just going to continue to flatten out and just drop off later on. Not the case with this thing. Ended up making a nice push back up. More volume got filled on the trade as it ended up testing the highs off of 160, 165-ish. And then from there, ended up making a really nice explosion up to 2. The false breakout over 2 is really easy to, assume or predict. Just given the timing of the day and how far the stock had moved up, you just better to be safe than sorry. That's typically what will happen off the first test. So really big drop right now. And I don't know. I feel like with this drop, is it as likely to see it pump all the way back up to 2, break over 2? I don't know. So we'll keep this on the side, come back to this perhaps at the end. If we have a decent enough list, we'll kind of scrap the side list. All right, the Rainy trade, I guess that was from earlier, ACY. I look at this stock whenever I like to show like a pop and drop type of stock here over the years. You could just say, all right, Jobby, new IPO, right? From today. Or they got listed on the New York Stock Exchange officially today. I don't know if they were OTC beforehand, but stock ended up making a nice push up earlier today. I was interested in it, but I ended up catching it much later on throughout the run. Practically, whereas at 14, I ended up first noticing it. So I was, a bit late to the party, but yeah, for right now, we're going to scrap it from our list. Maybe keep it in mind going forward for rest of this week and next. If the spreads remain tight, then I'd consider it going forward. I mean, hey, we've been following a couple of IPOs lately or direct listings like Wish and DD and, obviously PLTR from last year. The CWBR stock. Anytime that you kind of come to a stock that you're not really too familiar with, first thing you got to do is check to see how much volume it trades on a day-to-day basis. Why do I say that? Well, the stock prior to today was trading maybe like a couple 100,000 shares a day on average. That's it. So with that, I mean, the stock was trading maybe 20 million, 15, 20 million, maybe even more shares going into the market open. The dump off is highly likely here. So, right now, not doing a whole lot. We'll keep this off our list. Maybe come back to it if it ends up showing some signs of life. Ooh, DOCS, Doximity Inc. Nice trend. Great to see the stock at the highs. I guess a new IPO as well, but order book is like completely blank. So that makes it untradeable for us. Uh-oh, I was about to share some good news on DYAI, but it ended up just dumping right back down below 5. It pumped up a little bit more, but then it just slammed right below 5 just now. Task, I guess, kind of similar to the DOX trade, relatively. I mean, this one's not as expensive, but order book really spread out. All right, so that will turn me back to the ORPH, the stock I had on the chart as I started the meeting. So this ended up making a really nice squeeze shortly after the market opened up. It was popping actually into the open right around 9:15 Eastern when Fausto finished up the meeting. It ended up getting one more push, and from there it ended up breaking out pretty nicely after the open from like 580-ish, 6, all the way up towards over 7. Right now, getting a second win type of move right now. I did check Benzinga Pro when we ended up calling out the pop. I think Norman was first to the call out on this pop. And at the time, I didn't see any extra news come out that led to that. That's a pretty sharp pop. So I didn't know if that was news related or maybe options activity related or whatnot. But, for what it's worth right now, I'm squeezing up a little bit here. So I don't know. I'll put this on the side list. Come back to it at the end. Tell you what, I need new contacts here. My eyes were really bad going into the morning. I don't know what happened, but I got to squint here right now. All right, see what else we got. Curie, $12 stock at least. Not doing much. The MOXC trade we did call out from earlier, another stock that's pretty familiar to us and a stock that ended up making a nice pop here today from like 750-ish. We called it out at all the way up towards just over 950. Just choppy here now. All right, now we'll kind of just skim through because at this point I wouldn't expect for there to be as much out there aside from the top of the gainers list. BTCM stock from Monday of this week ended up making a big pop in pre-market and I guess pushed up pretty nicely here this morning, but pretty flat here too. The MOGO trade. All right, let's see any other familiar names here. We'll just kind of skim through like I just said. Smile Direct Club trying to recover from bad earnings and drop off yesterday. It actually pushed over yesterday's high. I'm noticing that right now. I didn't really trade this from this morning, but ended up making a nice push and yeah, second win type of play here. I'll put it on with a ORPH on the side. Come back to those three at the end. The ORPH, SDC, and the LITB on the side list. No, I think my scanner's reset. All right, let's see. Anything else here? Bitfarms had a nice push earlier today. Not a whole lot happening now. All right, let's hop over to the losers list. It's like I'd said, though, from the start of the meeting, the market's in a really tight range. It's been very flat, sideways moving for a little while. So, I say it all the time. If the market's at the highs, I would expect to find more stocks near the highs. If the market's at the lows, perhaps more stocks near the lows. Just pretty flat for right now, though. So not really too surprising there. Higher, HYRE, down to the lows of the day right now. Practically, what's the low of the day? 976. Kind of thin volume on the book, but it's near the lows and, right within our price range. Support should be at 10, but actually I see a 5,200 share order at 995. So, you know what? I'll slip this on the main list for right now. We've been doing really well on these afternoon shorts, right? We've been talking about it from the last week or so. Nikola, CCL, hopefully this one too. And I'm sure I'm slipping up on a couple of others that we ended up trading. Fausto on the MCP he was talking about in the morning meeting today. I remember that. Maybe space, right? Space, we ended up seeing drop off yesterday. We ended up actually putting that on our list, if I'm not mistaken, yesterday afternoon, but ended up making a nice push down today as well. It's kind of near the lows too. A little slow and flat, but we're familiar with this stock. I don't mind slipping this on the main list here. Make the cut. Might be a little exhausted, so we'll see if this ends up showing more signs of life on the way down, or perhaps if it breaks strongly over 27, maybe we'll get the squeeze up on that. Endo, not a whole lot really happening there. All right, folks, that might just about do it from me. Goose earnings from this morning. We'll check that out, I guess, but thin order book, Canadian Goose. All right, let me know if there's anything else, folks, up, down, left, right, that you would want me to check out that I didn't yet. The DYAI, really quickly, just to go back to that. I mean, this one I told you, unfortunately, it was pushing up nicely, up over 520. and then just out of nowhere, big drop. If you didn't hear that snap through my microphone, there we go. That was a weak snap. All right, so from Ron Space Bounce. I don't know if I looked at that chat before or after here. I ended up looking at the stock, but yeah, perhaps. I definitely, it's on our list. PXLW from Mitch Connor on YouTube. Nice push here. I probably skipped over this, to be honest with you. It's up 14%. You know, it was pushing up the last 3 to 5 minutes. Maybe I didn't see it, but either way, PXLW, nice trade. All right, this will make the list. Good call. Maybe BTU, says Debbie. Yeah, you know, BTU, and I've been saying it really every day at this point. It's been more of a swing trade than a day trade. But today, if you were getting in early, right around 12:50, 12:60, you were able to hold on to that thing all throughout the morning, heading into the early parts of the afternoon. Ended up dropping off from where? 1393. So it failed to even move up to 14 and test 14. So I don't know. I mean, it is tradable by all measures. It's a very tradable stock. You know, if you do well on this stock on a day-to-day basis, or if you have over the last month, then I'm sure that you'll be focusing on it more than others. But for right now, though, I guess we'll kind of keep it on the side. All right, folks, today is Wednesday. You know what that means. So actually, if there's any other stocks that end up popping in the next 5 or so minutes, I guess we'll do one last call. But I'll show Bitcoin really quick. And I want to show you something interesting, because I told you yesterday I ended up launching my own personal Twitter account here through CTU at CTU Josh. So for all of us on social media, I will just say really quickly, if you'd like to follow me on Twitter, and you'll see why coming up very shortly, feel free to do so. But I ended up noting something here on the 6-hour chart with Bitcoin. So where we last left off from Monday of this week, we ended up seeing Bitcoin make a move up to the trend line, off the highs, off the all-time high here, right around 65,000. So, oh, and I should say this is a log chart too, by the way. For Bitcoin, you really want to use a log chart no matter what. But I would say just with this trade, it ended up breaking the trend line here. And I was saying, be careful. We're going to see a pullback, very likely, probably pull back closer towards the 500 EMA. Well, it hasn't yet, and that's fine. I mean, I'll take that. I'd much rather be wrong in that regard, right? But it's to say this. If we go back on the 6-hour chart here for Bitcoin, if we're in a bull market, well, the last time that this ended up testing the 500 EMA was right here. And again, on the 6-hour graph, this is, but it only broke it very briefly and then held over it, and then that's when it took off, right? All right, well, let's check out the last time Bitcoin made a run before that. You know, it was holding well under the 500 EMA back in 2018 after the peak of the bull market and dropped off. It made a cross here and started running. Now, here's where I want to focus on. I want to focus, actually, let's hide this one here for right now. Get rid of that guy. Focus on the 100 and the 500 EMAs. Notice the cross here when the 100 broke over the 500, made a really sharp run up, huge return or huge gain. Here, that's what led to this run. Well, note right over here, we're finally coming back to a cross between the 100 and 500 EMAs here on the 6-hour graph. So it's not to assume automatic crossover. It's going to continue flying up and just keep going up faster. But if we end up seeing this cross, I mean, from past history, I'd like to, hope that very shortly from now, we'll begin to see the real run. There might be a little consolidation or pullback coming up, but otherwise, if we happen to see the 100 hold over the 500, then I expect to see a very strong run up over time. Now, the reason why I bring up my Twitter account out of all of this is because one of my first posts on my Twitter account, again, at C2Josh, there we go, right over here. And this has to do with Cardano, the other major crypto that I'm involved with. But I ended up noting the last time where we ended up seeing the 100 crossover from the 500 EMA. And again, this is a 6-hour graph. It was right over here. It was at the same time that Bitcoin ran, right? And Cardano ended up pumping up to all-time highs at that point. All right, well, I bring Cardano into the equation here because that post was just about 2 days ago. That Cardano post, where Cardano at the time was at 147, 146. Look at where it's at today. Here's your crossover. Here's their push. Little food for thought. That's all I'm saying, folks. All right. So that's where I'll leave us off with Bitcoin, at least. And with that, I think that just about does it. Let me know if there's anything else, though, folks, that ended up popping or dropping over the last 5 minutes, I guess, as I was flapping my gums. I appreciate the feedback from Lewis and David inside Cybergroup. And Norman, nice catch on the PXLW trade. He got 6 cents on it. He was in from 391. Mindful exit getting out right under 4, though. Nice trade. All right, folks, going once, going twice. We got to check out a couple stocks from the side list, I said, right? Yeah, Smile Direct Club, ORPH, and LITB. Too slow. It's pushing up. Held support. Trying to get back up to 2 right now. All right, so LITB makes the cut for the meantime. Looking a little more interesting in the sense of seeing this move up higher. And then last one was the ORPH, right? Yeah, pulling back down now. I was a little afraid of that. I mean, ended up making a second win type of move here, but no news came out off that pop, so I feel like it's just going to come back down over time. From Lewis at the horn, he's got Express EXPR. Nah, too slow. Tradable stock by all measures. I mean, if you do well on it, maybe you consider it, but otherwise, a little too slow here otherwise for Express. We've seen the stock move faster. All right, folks, you know the deal for all of us on social media. Perhaps you don't if you're a first-time attendee. So let me tell you, make sure to hit the like, subscribe, notification bell icon on our YouTube stream, that being youtube.com/cybertradingyou. How about this? I'll push it right to my Twitter feed instead of my YouTube. So, or my email address, rather, that is. So again, feel free to follow me at twitter.com/cyber at C2Josh. Our main account is at CyberTradingU. If you are looking to join us inside our live trading room, feel free to go right down on the link, to the link on the banner below, just to get yourself started on a small trial inside our live trading room. For all of us there right now, like Lewis and David, Norman, Debbie, Martha, William, Bill, Ray, and everyone else alike, I look forward to speaking with you folks coming up pretty shortly. I'll be back on the mic right around 3:30 Eastern. Take care.